My name is Sherry Ballard, and I am Crystal's mother. And I would like to say thank you to Judge Sims for being such a fair and honest judge. I'd like to thank Shane Young and Teresa Young and their whole team for doing such an outstanding job in prosecuting this case. I'd like to thank you to Steve Carey from the FBI and his whole team who worked nonstop to get me to the prosecution's office. Last but not least, thank you to everyone else that was involved in between, who without all of you, there may not have been a guilty verdict. Thank you to all of you for your hard work and your dedication to my daughter's case. Oddly, Brooks, I would like to thank you. I would like to thank you for not fixing my daughter's tire for her, because that was your first big mistake. And thank you for looking at me. When you thought you had planned the perfect murder, I guess you're not as smart as you think you are. I sit here and I try to make sense of what the last 10 years of my life have been like. I don't think I would ever have the words to explain that to anyone. I no longer live the life I used to live. The changes you have caused in my life, Brooks Houck, is astronomical. I knew after a few interactions around you how fake you really were. I only wish my daughter could have seen it sooner. I remember one time when you got mad at me when you didn't come home to watch the kids like you promised Crystal you would do. But they were smart enough to call me when you didn't show up. I remember coming to the house and it was already getting dark and you had just got there. I was so upset and told you how I felt about you leaving those kids home alone. One of them being Eli, your own son, who was only around 2 years old at the time. You had the nerve to tell Crystal that I disrespected you. You have no idea how much I truly disrespect you today. I watched you treat my daughter with the most disrespect a man could ever treat a woman. I remember a time when you sat at my kitchen table for hours with her daddy, asking him how, and every question in the book on how to build a house. Never once did my husband get rude with you, not one time. Instead, he sat there for over 2 hours, tired and ready for bed, still answering all your questions. How much respect did you show Tommy Ballard? And let's not forget the reason you were at my house to begin with. The reason you were there is because you didn't show up on time again to pick up your child so Crystal could get to work on time. So she brought her kids to me. Your second big mistake was underestimating the love me and Tommy had for our daughter. Crystal was such a sweet and loving person. She was a great mother. She deserved so much more than you could ever have given her. For your mother to have the nerve, Rosemary Houck, to think that my daughter was not good enough for you is a joke. It's more than I can comprehend. It's truly unbelievable. Let's talk about the times you treated my daughter and her kids with such rude behavior. Leaving them in the dark when you would remove their light bulbs from their rooms because they forgot to turn off a light. They were kids. Taking the bedroom door off the hinges because they forgot to shut the door. Cutting off the water supply on purpose so they didn't have running water. And I know that because my daughter called me. Leaving my pregnant daughter sitting outside your driveway because you wouldn't give her a key to your house when she first moved in. Brooks, I listened to the phone calls you made while in jail, and you want people to feel sorry for you? You don't deserve that privilege. How pathetic is that? I also remember bringing the kids home from CCD class, and I would stop and get them pizza and a soft drink. And they would hide in their room because they told me you would eat it all. For 10 years, I have suffered the pain of losing my daughter. Never once have I seen you shed one tear, not one tear. Never once have I heard you say you were worried about where she was or what might have happened to her. You sat there worried more about your family's name than the woman you shared a child with that you supposedly cared about. For years, I took all of your arrogant and negative treatment when I saw you in public. Your sarcastic attitude that you would rub in my face, knowing I was fighting for visitation for my grandson, and I couldn't say anything because you always used it against me in court. I took all that with my head held high while I was dying inside. Every day I watched your family go on about their pathetic lives while mine was being ripped apart. I can say that the only thing I feel for you today, Brooks Houck, is contempt. I pity that you don't even have God in your life. Your brother Nick Houck, or am I supposed to call him Nicholas, mentions to you in your phone calls to him that you shouldn't worry because we're only here for a little while. Well, I can tell you that you better worry because when that little while runs out, you won't be answering to your mama, your brother, your sister, the courts, or any of those people. You will be answering to the most important person of all. So yes, you should be worried. I heard your conversation about not being a religious person, and you were ashamed to ask God for anything. That's so sad. That's so sad. I can tell you that when Brian Butler was doing your closing statements, I was praying the whole time. You can admit your guilt, Brooks, and you can tell me where my daughter is, and that's your forgiveness from God. Proverbs 28:13, he that covers his sin shall not prosper, but whoever confesses and forsakes them shall have mercy. That's your forgiveness. I pity you mostly because you have lost a child, because I know how that feels. Maybe now you have a very small portion of the pain I have had for the last 10 years. The difference, though, is that you chose to lose your child. I had no say in losing mine. I miss my daughter every second of every day. I can say that one day I feel like I will see my daughter again. I'm not so sure you could say the same thing about your child. I pray that one day you will grow a heart and have the decency to tell me where my daughter is so we can have a proper burial for her. You owe that much to your own son, and my daughter deserves that. Her kids deserve that. I do hope that every day you're incarcerated, you see my daughter's beautiful face, and you think about the evil you have committed and how many lives you have destroyed. I pray this haunts you for the rest of your miserable life. My daughter was so much better than what your mother made her out to be. I know for sure she would never have taught her children to grow up to become murderers. The depths of pain I have felt over the years is more than I think a human body could ever withstand. Still, I sit here today because all the pain that you have inflicted on me gave me that much more strength to prove how guilty you are and what a worthless human being you are. God willing, I pushed on. And I taught my kids and Crystal's kids how strong a family could be when the pain becomes overwhelming. Brooks Houck, you took a mother from 5 kids who were young and dependent on their mother's love to survive. You stole their whole future away from them. You know, me and Tommy never once said in court you were a bad father. Never once. You can say that we never did that. I look back now and can I forgive myself for that? I don't know. How did I ever say that? Who takes a mother from their child? I will never understand that, Brooks. You stole their whole future away from them. Somehow these kids didn't let the ugliness you inflicted on their lives destroy them. They pushed on and lived each day in memory of their mom. This was not easy for them. No child should lose their mother the way you took theirs. You had no sympathy or concern for anyone but your own selfish being. You took your own son's mother from him. You erased every picture and every memory Eli had of his mother. You kept him from his loving grandparents and his siblings and a whole entire family that loved him very much. I guess my definition of love is much different than yours, but I have no doubt your actions have proven this to be true. Brooks, you had zero concern for my daughter. She came into my kitchen a week or two before you murdered her, and she was so upset. She said to me, "Mom, I can't leave because he will take Eli away from me." That's how much my daughter loved her son. I tried to tell her you couldn't do that because she was a very good mother. She proceeded to say, "But he has money and a house and he will take him." I didn't understand at the time why she was so scared, but after hearing Christina Hawley's testimony in court, where she heard you say no one will take Eli because you have money and that's not going to happen, it hit me right in the face. I clearly understood where my daughter got that conception. I still think about the conversation every day. In the long run, Brooks, you didn't get Eli either, because you chose to murder his mother, and now you will spend the rest of your miserable life in prison where you belong. How does that make you feel? Because I know how upset my daughter was even thinking about losing her son. In your conversation to your sister Rhonda, you mentioned getting into a parenting program. I honestly don't know what parenting program would even, I don't know how they know how to respond to you. If you loved your son so much, you would never have murdered his mother. You have tried to turn Eli against me because I have fought for justice for my daughter, his mother. One day, he will be old enough to figure out everything I am saying is true, and that you, Brooks Houck, is responsible for the death of my daughter. Brooks, you also mentioned that when you got the conviction, the only thing you and your partners in crime could come up with is that the jury knew more about this case. That's an insult to the man and woman who sit on that jury every day. I watch these people taking notes and asking questions, so their decision could be based on the facts and not hearsay. Have you ever considered that maybe just once people saw through all your lies you've been telling for the last 10 years? The day I met you at your truck, you knew exactly what happened to my daughter. You weren't concerned about her at all. Instead, you went about your daily life happy she was no longer in it. You, Brooks Houck, are narcissistic. You are so self-centered, and the only person you think about is yourself and your own needs at the expense of others. You thought you could break me down, leave me desperate for answers and closures, and just crumble. You are a bully. You try to classify others as inferior to you and unworthy, just like you did to Crystal. You thought your hostile humor was funny, just like when you switched the bullet out in Crystal's gun when you all were trap shooting, so it would kick back and bruise her shoulder. I didn't appreciate your so-called humor. How you found an attorney that would take your case and defend you is so hard for me to understand. Then again, we all heard about the money that you paid for just a witness. I guess the saying, money is the root of all evil, is true. And what about your mother, Rosemary Houck? There's another saying that's true. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I feel as much contempt for your mother as I do for you. She should set a good example for her children that a mother could be proud of. Instead, she taught her children hatred, greed, and evil behavior. Your mother, Rosemary Houck, is a true disgrace of what a mother really is. The real reason she didn't like my daughter was because she was not raised to be dishonest, greedy, or evil. How could she lead her children to the destruction and murder of my daughter? How could she steal a mother from 5 children? Even her own grandchild. She never even blinked an eye when her son was convicted of life in prison. I don't understand that. Did she honestly hate my daughter so much that she would sacrifice her own son? Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying, because I know, Brooks Houck, you had your own selfish reasons for murdering my daughter. Brooks, what about your selfish, lying sister, Rhonda Houck? She, too, is a disgrace to mothers around the world. I believe her and her entire family knows what happened to my daughter. She pretended to be friends with my daughter until the day that Crystal got that cheap embroidery machine. Then she got mad and wouldn't talk or even speak to Crystal because she thought she was infringing on her so-called business. How sad is that? She wanted a reason to dislike my daughter so bad that she grabbed at any opportunity. She knew my daughter would not participate in any of her family's sick and evil ways. I guess I'm going to ask you these questions, Brooks. Did you ever think of how my daughter felt when you murdered her? Did she feel any pain? Did you make sure Crystal knew what you were going to do to her? Did Crystal beg for her life, knowing she had 5 children to come home to, and family that really loved her and depended on her? Where is my daughter? I can tell you, I've thought about these questions many days and many nights. I honestly don't know why I'm even asking you these questions, because I know you're not even man enough to own up to what you did to my daughter. I know your sister won't, by her actions and her lies on the witness stand when she was under oath. She cared nothing about my daughter. So disrespectful of her, even to the point that she named her own son Eli, just to be mean and ugly to my daughter. Your sister mentioned on the stand that you all had family functions at the farm, but your brother, Nick Houck's girlfriend, Amber Bowman, said under oath that she barely knew Crystal. What kind of family dinner is that you sit at the same table and you don't even know each other? Not the kind that your sister tried to portray on the witness stand. She talked about being scared and threatened, but wasn't it her and your father who confronted my youngest daughter and proceeded to rear-end her, causing her to wreck her car? But your family felt threatened? Brooks Houck, you talked to your brother on the phone, and you mentioned the journey your life is taking. Do you think it might have something to do with your actions in murdering my daughter? You also mentioned the last 10 years were the best of your life. Is that a coincidence these years were the years after you murdered my daughter? Not in one phone call that I heard did you mention that you were innocent, not one time. You show no feelings or empathy for my daughter. Your brother Nick mentions to you this is like a dream. Well, this has been a nightmare for me that you and your sick and evil family created for me and my family. You mentioned with your pathetic voice that you want to be brought up to your son, while at the same time you erase everything about my daughter from him. I can say that your dream has become like my nightmare, because I will never give up fighting for justice for my husband. He was a true epitome of what a real father is like. I will personally be at every parole hearing you will ever have, and I will bring an army with me if that's what it takes to keep you behind bars. You also mentioned you got convicted because of the mayor, the governor, and the attorney general. I can promise you that's not why you were convicted. You were convicted because you murdered my daughter. I pray you never see the light of day. I pray that you wear that turtle suit every day with no underwear. I pray you will only have your sick little plastic spoon. I pray you will always have to sleep on that mat on the floor. Oh, but I forgot, as you quoted in your interview, you are a full-blooded male. So you should be able to handle prison life with no trouble. I myself don't honestly see that happening because you are a true coward. You murdered my daughter and then you hid behind all your pathetic lies. As far as your new girlfriend goes, you're not as smart as you think you are. You think she's been so loyal to you? Ask her about the initial CH. You think she loves you so much? Maybe you should ask Mommy to keep a real eye on her and what goes on while you're sitting behind those bars. Brooks, you mentioned you didn't understand the plan for your life. I can promise you this had nothing to do with God's plan. This has everything to do with the choices you made for your own life. I think it's about time you admit to that, and now you will suffer the consequences. I hope you enjoy your new life in prison because I feel like I've been there for the last 10 years of my life because of you. My only regret is that Kentucky doesn't have the death penalty. But then I think death is too good for you. Even if I never find my daughter, I know my daughter's with God. And that brings peace only He can give me. My memories of my husband and my daughter, you can never erase from my mind. I was very blessed with my time with them. I don't think you will be able to say the same about your family. Hell is not a place where one feels peace. And you and your whole family will be united there one day. Like your brother Nick said, don't worry because we're only here for a little while. Your third big mistake, Brooks Houck, was killing my daughter. Now you're going to pay the ultimate price while you sit behind bars watching the whole world just pass you by. I hope you enjoy every second of it. Brooks Houck, you may have received a lifetime of prison, but I received a lifetime of grief and pain. You deserve yours. I don't deserve mine. Have fun with the rest of your life. I pray you receive as much grief and pain as you have caused me. And before anyone complains, I am wearing pink. Pink was my daughter's favorite color. And I think that is my God-given right to remember my daughter for the beautiful person that she was, the person that you murdered, Brooks Houck. And as far as you go, Joey, I did not know you. I don't know you today. I'm sure there was a time when you were a little boy and you thought about growing up and what you were going to be when you grew up. I pray to God it wasn't a murderer. I pray that wasn't what you had in mind. I would think not, but you could have saved my daughter. You could have just come forward and spoke up, and you could have saved my daughter, and she would still be here for every one of those kids you see back there sitting in those chairs. Well, thank you. That's all I have to say.
Questions?